AITA for refusing to go to my brother's wedding because of the dress code and how they treated my wife. My brother Jason is getting married this June. He's the golden child in our family, always has been. I love him, but growing up it was always Jason this and Jason that. Straight A's, sports star, charm, charisma, the works. I was the quieter, artsy sibling who never quite measured up in our parents' eyes. I made peace with that, mostly. I built a life I'm proud of with my wife, Emily. We've been married for 3 years, together for 7. She's warm, kind, the kind of person people just feel comfortable around. She also happens to be a plus-size woman. When Jason announced his engagement to Heather last year, everyone was thrilled. Heather's, well, she's very polished. Think Instagram perfect, yoga every morning, green smoothie for breakfast type. She's friendly, but there's always been this undercurrent of judgment in her interactions, like she's smiling through gritted teeth. Emily has picked up on it too, though she's tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. We were invited to all the major wedding events, engagement party, bridal shower, I skipped that one, rehearsal dinner, etc. Emily and I attended everything, contributed to group gifts, helped with setup when asked. We weren't in the bridal party, which was fine. The weirdness started with the save the dates, which are these ornate custom cards with a link to a wedding website. The site had sections for travel, RSVP, registry, and then a section labeled Appearance Expectations. It outlined, in detail, what the dress code was. Formal attire, sure. But then there were paragraphs specifying color palettes, muted pastels only, no black, red, or white, accessories, minimal and elegant, makeup guidelines, subtle glam, and a note that guests should strive for a cohesive aesthetic. It was pretentious, but whatever, it's their wedding. Then came the actual invitation, and with it, a more direct email from Heather. She sent it to about 15 people, close friends and family not in the bridal party. It reiterated the dress code, but added some visual references, including a few mood boards. It also included a line that said, "Out of respect for our photographer's vision and the visual harmony of our day, we kindly ask that guests refrain from wearing overly bold prints or styles that may draw attention. We'd appreciate guests making choices that flatter their own figure while maintaining a soft, elegant presence." Emily read it, blinked, and said, "So basically, don't be fat and don't stand out." I laughed, but I could tell she was stung. She tried to brush it off, saying she'd wear something simple and pastel. We went shopping together, and she picked out a beautiful, dusty blue dress, floor-length, modest neckline, a soft chiffon that draped really well. She looked incredible in it. We even checked the mood boards to make sure it fit. A few weeks later, she got another email. This one just to her from Heather. It was so sorry in tone, but the message was clear. Heather said she had some concerns about Emily's dress, and while it was lovely, she was a bit worried that the silhouette might not photograph in the most flattering way given the lighting and venue setup. She recommended some alternative styles from a boutique she linked. All of them were much more conservative, high neck, long-sleeved, and clearly designed to minimize curves. Emily didn't say much, just closed her laptop and walked away. That night, she told me she didn't feel welcome at the wedding. I told her we didn't have to go, but she didn't want to make it a thing. I emailed Heather myself the next day, saying that the dress Emily chose fit the dress code and was tasteful, and that if the issue was really about photography aesthetics, perhaps she should reconsider how she communicates with guests. Heather replied that she was trying to maintain the highest standards, and that she hoped Emily wouldn't take it personally, as she'd reached out to a few others as well. She ended it by saying she hoped we could be team players. I didn't reply. Emily decided not to go to the wedding. She told Jason directly that she was sorry, but she didn't feel comfortable. Jason told her he understood, but then called me and said I was making it a bigger deal than it needed to be. He said Heather was just trying to make the day perfect and that we should be more supportive. I told him I wouldn't be attending either. That blew things up. My parents were furious. They said I was being selfish, that I was letting my wife's sensitivity ruin a major family event. My mom said it's just a dress and that we should let the bride have her day. I said that's exactly what we were doing, letting her have her day without us. Now the wedding's coming up next month, and I'm getting calls from relatives saying I need to be the bigger person. Jason texted me last week saying he hoped I'd change my mind and that he didn't want this to be a lifelong rift. I didn't respond. I don't think I'm in the wrong here. Emily has always tried to be gracious, and she was genuinely hurt. I won't force her into a situation where she's clearly unwelcome. But now I'm wondering if I overreacted by pulling out completely. Maybe I could have gone alone or tried harder to mediate. But it didn't feel right to leave my wife behind while I dressed up and smiled next to people who didn't respect her. So, AITA for skipping my brother's wedding because of the way they treated my wife. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot and motivates me to create even more amazing content just for you. Make sure to turn on notifications so you'll never miss out on a new video. I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for your support. It truly helps the channel grow. AITA for refusing to give my sister-in-law the heirloom ring my late wife wanted our daughter to have. My wife passed away from breast cancer 3 years ago. She fought it for over a year before it took her. It was devastating, not just for me, but for our then 7-year-old daughter, Lily. My wife, Hannah, was the love of my life. We'd been together since college and had almost 12 years of marriage before she passed. In those final months, Hannah made a lot of preparations. She wanted to make sure Lily and I would be okay. She left letters for Lily to open on certain birthdays, little video messages, and even a journal where she wrote thoughts and memories for her. One thing she was very specific about was her jewelry, particularly a ring that had been in her family for generations. It's a Victorian-era ruby ring that her grandmother gave to her when she turned 16. Hannah wore it often, even more than her engagement ring. It was meaningful to her. In her handwritten will, and also verbally multiple times, she told me she wanted that ring to go to Lily on her 16th birthday. Lily is 10 now. My sister-in-law, Erica, Hannah's younger sister, is getting married this fall. She came to me 2 months ago asking if she could wear the ring as her something old. I was hesitant, but said I'd think about it. After a few days, I gently said no, explaining that Hannah had very specific wishes for that ring, and I wasn't comfortable lending it out. Erica seemed to accept it at the time. Last week, things blew up. I got a call from my mother-in-law asking why I was being vindictive and controlling over a piece of jewelry. I was blindsided. Erica had apparently told the family that I was keeping the ring from her out of spite because we had a minor argument at Christmas, which we did, but it was nothing major, just a disagreement over parenting styles. I explained everything to my MIL, but she said that Hannah would have wanted Erica to wear the ring for her big day, and that I was reading too much into Hannah's suggestions. Here's the thing. Hannah's will wasn't a legal document written by a lawyer. It was a handwritten set of instructions with things like, give Lily the ring for her 16th birthday, and let her read my journal when she's old enough. There's no executor, no lawyer involved. I don't even know if it would hold up legally. But that's not the point. The point is that she trusted me to carry out her wishes, and I want to honor that. After that phone call, things escalated. Erica texted me a few days later with a photo of a similar ring and said, see, it's not that serious. There are tons like it. I ignored the message. Then, over Easter, she brought it up again in front of the family, saying something like, I just think Hannah would have wanted me to have a little piece of her on my wedding day. I stayed calm and just said, Hannah made her wishes very clear to me. That sparked a huge argument. Her fiancé told me I was making a beautiful moment into something petty, and my MIL started crying, saying I was trying to erase Erica's connection to her sister. I've tried to explain this multiple times. I'm not saying Erica can't have something of Hannah's. I even offered her a necklace that Hannah used to wear often, not the heirloom ring, but she refused. She said the ring is the only thing that feels right. At this point, I've stopped replying to messages from the in-laws, and I didn't go to a family brunch last weekend because I didn't want another confrontation. Now, I'm being accused of isolating Lily from her mother's family, which couldn't be further from the truth. Lily still sees her grandparents and cousins. I'm just keeping some space right now because I'm burned out. To me, this isn't about the ring being valuable or fancy. It's about respecting my wife's wishes. That ring was meant for Lily. It was one of the few things Hannah was adamant about. I feel like if I give in now, I'm betraying her trust. But the constant guilt trips and the way the family has turned on me has made me wonder if I'm being too rigid. I spoke to a friend of mine, someone who knew Hannah well, and she said she could see both sides. That maybe letting Erica wear the ring for a few hours and then returning, it wouldn't be such a big deal. But I can't shake this feeling that once I let it out of my hands, something might happen. And if it does, if it gets lost, damaged, or it's simply not returned, I won't be able to fix that. More importantly, I have to live with the fact that I went against what Hannah asked. Lily doesn't know anything about this yet. She's still too young to understand all the family drama. She knows her mom had a special ring and that one day it'll be hers, but I don't think she grasps the weight of all that yet. I just want to give her that gift when she turns 16, just like Hannah planned. I want her to feel connected to her mom in the way Hannah hoped she would. It breaks my heart that a gesture meant to bring comfort and legacy is now the center of a bitter argument. So here I am, stuck between what I feel in my gut is right and an entire family that thinks I'm being cold-hearted and petty. They've started calling me the ring gatekeeper behind my back. My niece let that one slip. I'm tired of being the bad guy, but I don't want to break my promise to the woman I loved more than anything. AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law borrow the ring my wife wanted our daughter to have. AITA for telling my sister that no one owes her forgiveness just because she's in therapy now. My 36M, younger sister, Erin, 32F, was a wrecking ball of a person for most of her 20s. She was always the kind of person who took no responsibility for anything. If she lost a job, it was because her boss was a jerk. If a friendship ended, it was always because the other person was toxic. Erin wasn't just dramatic. She was destructive. She lied, manipulated, borrowed money she never repaid, and used people emotionally and sometimes financially until they cut her off. The biggest issue was what she did to our cousin Amanda, now 35F. Amanda and Erin were extremely close as kids, more like sisters than cousins. That changed around 10 years ago. Amanda was engaged to a guy named Tyler. They'd been together for 4 years, and everyone thought they were solid. Then out of nowhere, Amanda broke off the engagement. She told everyone it was just a mutual decision, no drama, but she disappeared from family gatherings for months. At the time, it was confusing, but no one really questioned it. Fast forward a year, I found out from my then-girlfriend, who was friends with Amanda's roommate, that Amanda had caught Erin sleeping with Tyler. Repeatedly, Erin had inserted herself into Amanda and Tyler's relationship and basically sabotaged it from inside. It wasn't just a one-time thing or some drunken mistake. It had gone on for months. Amanda found out through text messages and screenshots, and apparently Erin had even admitted to having feelings for him. Amanda never told anyone in the family what happened. She just ghosted Erin completely and kept her distance from most of us, especially around holidays when Erin would be there. Erin, meanwhile, never apologized. In fact, she denied everything for years. Said Amanda was just jealous of her and trying to turn people against her. It was insane. Eventually, Amanda moved to another state and only visited for major events like weddings or funerals. She kept things civil, but you could tell she was guarded. So here we are in the present day. Erin started therapy about 8 months ago. She's made a big deal out of it, constantly posting on social media about her healing journey, how she's finally doing the work, and how she's owning her truth. That's all fine. I support therapy and self-improvement. But the way Erin is using it to rewrite the past is where I draw the line. A few weeks ago, my wife and I hosted Easter dinner for the family. Amanda happened to be in town visiting her parents and came with them. Erin was also there, and for most of the day, they just avoided each other, which is typical. But toward the end of the night, Erin approached Amanda in the kitchen while most people were outside. I was inside cleaning up and overheard everything. Erin said something along the lines of, "I know I hurt you in the past. I'm in therapy now, and I've been working really hard to understand why I did the things I did. I just want to say I'm sorry. I hope we can move past it." Amanda was dead silent for a second and then just said, "I'm glad you're in therapy, but I'm not interested in reconnecting. I don't forgive you." Erin started crying, like full meltdown crying. She said Amanda was being unfair, that she was trying to make amends, and that Amanda was stuck in the past. Amanda calmly said, "You don't get to decide how someone heals. This isn't about you." Then she left. After that, Erin stormed into the living room, made a scene in front of everyone about how she was trying to be a better person and no one believed she could change. She said the family was enabling Amanda's bitterness and left in tears. A couple days later, she called me, furious that I didn't defend her. I told her flat out that Amanda doesn't owe her forgiveness, and that just because she's in therapy doesn't mean her past actions get erased. Erin accused me of being holier than thou and said I was just like Amanda, unwilling to see that she's grown. I told her therapy is about changing yourself, not demanding closure from others. If Amanda never wants to forgive her, that's her right. Erin hung up on me. Now my parents are involved. They say I should have supported Erin more, especially since she's finally trying. My mom thinks Amanda is being cold and that I'm encouraging her to hold a grudge. My dad says I could have at least acknowledged Erin's effort in the moment. I disagree. I think if Erin was really sincere, she'd apologize without expecting anything back. Some of my cousins are split on the issue, and I'm starting to feel like I might have handled it too harshly. I didn't yell or anything, but I was very blunt with Erin. I don't know. Maybe I should have been more diplomatic. I just don't believe in performative apologies that come with strings attached. So, AITA for telling my sister that no one owes her forgiveness just because she's in therapy now. AITA for ruining my sister's wedding because I refused to be her maid of honor unless my boyfriend was invited. My 29F younger sister Ava, 27F, got married 3 weeks ago, and what should have been a joyful time has somehow turned into a full-blown family feud, with me as the alleged villain. Ava and I have always had a complicated relationship. She's the golden child, not just to our parents, but to pretty much everyone who meets her. She's beautiful, charismatic, and has that main character energy that people gravitate to. I've always been more reserved. Growing up, I was the quiet, bookish one while Ava was the social butterfly. There's always been an unspoken competition between us, one I've never wanted but have been dragged into over and over. I've been with my boyfriend, Mark, 31M, for almost 4 years. He's kind, grounded, funny, and for the first time in my dating life, I feel like I'm in a healthy, secure relationship. My family has met him multiple times and seem to like him well enough, though I've always had the sense that Ava thought he was beneath me in some way. He's a middle school science teacher and doesn't come from money, while Ava's now husband comes from a wealthy family and works in finance. There have been comments. He's sweet, but don't you want someone a little more ambitious? I just feel like you could do better, no offense. The kind of passive-aggressive digs Ava is known for. Anyway, when Ava got engaged last year, she asked me to be her maid of honor. I was genuinely touched and agreed, hoping it might be a chance for us to bond. The planning process was chaotic, mostly because Ava is a textbook perfectionist and micromanager. I try to be supportive despite her increasingly over-the-top expectations. She wanted weekly Zoom calls to check in on progress, detailed itineraries for everything, and even sent me a 12-page document titled Maid of Honor Duties, Ava's edition. It was exhausting. Things started to unravel 3 months before the wedding, when she sent out the save the dates, and I noticed that Mark wasn't included on the envelope addressed to me. When I brought it up, Ava said, "Oh, we had to make some cuts," and decided to keep it to spouses and fiancés only. It's nothing personal, except it felt extremely personal. Several other guests were bringing long-term partners who weren't engaged or married. One of her bridesmaids is bringing a guy she's been seeing for 6 months. I pointed this out, and Ava just shrugged and said, "It's different. We're closer with him." I was hurt and confused. Mark and I live together. We've spent holidays with our families, and we're building a life together. I told her I wouldn't feel comfortable standing up at her wedding while she deliberately excluded the most important person in my life. She accused me of trying to guilt trip her and said I was making everything about me. After a few days of back and forth, I gave her an ultimatum: either invite Mark, or I would step down as maid of honor and possibly not attend the wedding. I didn't say it to be petty. I just knew I couldn't go through with smiling in photos, giving a speech, and organizing events while feeling so disrespected. She didn't take it well. She told our parents I was sabotaging her wedding, and they both called to pressure me into caving. My mom said, "It's one day, just do it for your sister," and my dad accused me of playing politics over a +1. I stood my ground. A week later, Ava texted me and said she had asked her college best friend to be maid of honor instead, and that I was still welcome to come, alone, if I could behave. I declined the invitation. I didn't attend the bridal shower, bachelorette party, or the wedding. Mark was supportive, though he felt terrible that I was missing my sister's big day. I spent that weekend at a quiet Airbnb with him, trying not to check my phone. The wedding went on without me, and for what I heard, it was picture perfect. Ava looked gorgeous, the venue was stunning, and my absence became the gossip centerpiece for both sides of the family. Now the dust has settled, and people are picking sides. Some of my cousins and close friends agree that Ava was unreasonable, but my parents are furious. They say I let a man come between family, and my mom hasn't returned my calls in a week. Ava sent me a message saying she's done trying to have a relationship with someone who puts their ego before blood. I didn't think I was being egotistical. I just felt like I deserved the same basic respect she extended to other guests. I didn't demand that Mark be in the wedding party, give a speech, or even sit at the family table. I just wanted him there to support me. Her refusal felt like a deliberate attempt to make a statement about how little she values my relationship, and I couldn't pretend to be okay with that. But now, with the fallout being as bad as it is, I'm second-guessing myself. Did I let my hurt feelings override what should have been a time to support my sister, no matter what? Should I have sucked it up and just gone, even without Mark? AITA? AITA for not helping my sister with her baby when I promised I would? I, 26F, have always had a complicated relationship with my older sister Rachel, 31F. Growing up, she was the golden child. Straight A's, prom queen, college scholarships, the works. I was the kid who colored outside the lines, literally and figuratively. Our parents didn't outright say they favored her, but they didn't need to. It was obvious in every birthday gift, every graduation celebration, every time Rachel messed up and they swept it under the rug while I got punished for things like being 5 minutes late to curfew. Still, I loved her. I genuinely did, and part of me always wanted to be close to her. After she got married 2 years ago, things started to shift. Her husband Josh is nice enough, a little uptight, but he treats her well and works a stable job in IT. I started seeing her more often, and it felt like we were building a better relationship. So when she announced she was pregnant last year, I was thrilled, genuinely. I cried when she told me and immediately offered to help however I could. At the time, I was working remotely as a freelance graphic designer. My schedule was flexible, and I figured I could help her out during the newborn phase. I told her I could do grocery runs, help around the house, even watch the baby a few times a week if needed. I didn't think much of it. That's what family does, right? The baby, Lily, was born 4 months ago. Everything changed after that. The first 2 weeks, I was there almost every day. I cooked, cleaned, even stayed overnight twice when Josh had to work late. I'd bring coffee, walk their dog, hold Lily for hours so Rachel could sleep. I didn't expect a parade or anything, but a thank you would have been nice. Instead, it was like she expected it. Like I was the hired help she didn't have to pay. Then she started texting me constantly. "Can you come over at 7 tomorrow? Lily's not sleeping. I need you to take her for a few hours. Bring groceries. We're out of everything." I tried to set boundaries. I told her I could help twice a week, but I still had work and a life of my own. She guilt-tripped me every time. "You promised you'd be there for me. You said you'd help. It's just a baby, you don't get it. I need support." I started feeling resentful. My work suffered because I kept pushing deadlines. My mental health tanked. I wasn't sleeping well. I stopped going to the gym. I barely saw my friends. One day, I told her I couldn't come because I had a deadline for a big client. She replied, "Cool. I'll just collapse from exhaustion alone. Thanks." I cried that night, out of frustration and guilt. It all came to a head 2 weeks ago. She texted me at 5:30 in the morning saying she needed me to come watch Lily because she hadn't slept all night and Josh was out of town. I had a client presentation at 10 a.m. and told her I couldn't. She called me, crying, saying I was abandoning her, that I had promised. I stood firm and said I was sorry, but I had to work. She hung up on me. Later that day, I got a furious call from our mom. She said Rachel was in tears and completely overwhelmed. And how could I be so heartless? That I had no idea what it was like to be a mother, and I was being selfish. I snapped. I told her Rachel had been using me like a free nanny and maid, and I was done being taken for granted. Mom told me I was overreacting and that this is what sisters are for. Since then, Rachel hasn't spoken to me. Josh texted me once to say we're disappointed in how you handled this. My mom keeps bringing it up every time we talk, saying I broke a promise and left my sister in crisis. My dad is staying out of it, which is his usual MO. For what it's worth, I do feel bad. I know postpartum can be brutal. I know Rachel is probably dealing with a lot emotionally and physically, but I also think there's a line between helping someone and becoming their doormat. I never said I'd give up my entire life to raise her kid. I thought I was offering occasional help, not full-time, unpaid childcare. Some of my friends say I should have been clearer with my boundaries from the start, and they're probably right. Others say I did more than most would have, and Rachel needs to take some responsibility for her own household. But I can't shake the feeling that maybe I did break a promise. Maybe I let her down when she really needed me. Maybe I should have just pushed through a little longer. So, Reddit, AITA for not helping my sister with her baby when I promised I would. AITA for telling my sister she needs to find somewhere else to live after she disrespected my wife in front of her kids. I, 34M, have been married to my wife Emily, 32F, for 7 years. We have 2 kids, 6M and 4F. Emily and I both work full-time. I'm in IT, she's a nurse. We both have demanding jobs, but we try really hard to keep a balanced home. Our kids are our priority, and we split housework and parenting as evenly as possible. A little background. My younger sister, Lexi, 26F, moved in with us 8 months ago after breaking up with her long-term boyfriend. She was going through a rough time emotionally and financially, and since she was basically couch surfing and couldn't afford rent in our city, we offered her our finished basement until she got on her feet. We didn't charge her rent, just asked her to help out when she could and respect house rules. At first, things were okay. She stayed in the basement, helped with the kids sometimes, and picked up groceries here and there. But over time, she started slipping into this entitled mindset, staying out late and waking the kids up when she came home loud, not cleaning up after herself, leaving dishes in the sink for days, borrowing Emily's things without asking, makeup, hair tools, clothes. Even once took Emily's favorite coat and left in her car for over a week. Emily was pretty patient, but she started expressing frustration to me. I spoke to Lexi about it a few times, but she always had an excuse or would apologize and change for like a week before slipping again. Things came to a head last weekend. It was Sunday morning. Emily had just gotten home from a brutal 12-hour night shift at the hospital. She walked in, exhausted, and Lexi was sitting at the kitchen counter scrolling on her phone. Emily asked Lexi if she could help get breakfast started for the kids, who were getting cranky. Lexi rolled her eyes and said something like, "Why don't you just do it? You're home now." I thought moms love this kind of thing. I was upstairs getting dressed, but I heard the tone shift. I came down just as Emily was saying, "I've been working all night saving lives, Lexi. A little help wouldn't kill you." Lexi responded, loud enough for the kids to hear, "God, you're always acting like such a martyr. You think just because you wear scrubs you're better than everyone. You chose that job. You chose to have kids. You act like no one else works hard." Emily looked completely blindsided. The kids had gone quiet. I stepped in and told Lexi that was completely out of line and inappropriate, especially in front of our children. She started to argue, saying she was tired of being treated like the live-in maid, which made no sense since she barely does anything around the house. I told her we needed to talk, so we stepped outside. I told her she couldn't keep living here if she couldn't respect the people who were supporting her. I reminded her she was staying here for free and that Emily had been nothing but patient despite having every reason to be frustrated. She got defensive and said I was taking Emily's side as usual, and that it was just a joke and Emily needed to get over herself. At that point, I told her she had 30 days to find somewhere else to live. I wasn't going to raise my kids in a home where someone treated their mother with that kind of contempt. Lexi flipped. She accused me of abandoning her when she needed family most. Said I was choosing my wife over my own sister, and that I was another whipped husband who couldn't think for himself. I told her I loved her, but she had crossed a line. This wasn't about picking sides. It was about how she was behaving. She packed a bag and stormed out to go stay with a friend for a few days. Since then, my parents have both called me saying I overreacted. They say Lexi's just under stress, and I shouldn't be kicking her out over one argument. I explained that this was just the tipping point after months of behavior, and that her attitude had become toxic in our home. My mom insists that family helps family, and I'm being harsh, especially with how expensive rent is these days. But I have to think about the environment I'm creating for my kids and, frankly, for my wife. Emily hasn't said much about it since, other than she appreciates me standing up for her. But I can tell she feels guilty, like this is her fault somehow, and I hate that. Lexi has texted me a few times with snide remarks like, "Hope Emily's perfect little house is peaceful now, and guess blood doesn't mean much to you." I know she's hurting, but I honestly don't think I was wrong to set a boundary. I'm willing to help Lexi, financially even, but not at the cost of my wife's peace and my kids' emotional safety. Still, the guilt is creeping in because my parents keep framing this like I've kicked her to the curb heartlessly. AITA for telling my sister she needs to move out after disrespecting my wife in front of our children. AITA for refusing to let my stepdaughter move back in after what she did to my son. I'm a 43-year-old woman, married to Tom, 47, for 9 years. I have a son, Dylan, 16, from a previous relationship. Tom has a daughter, Alyssa, 19, from his previous marriage. We've all lived together since Dylan was about 7. At first, things were good. Alyssa was 10 when we all moved in together, and I did my best to treat her like my own. I never tried to replace her mother, but I was there for her in every way: school projects, sports, doctor's appointments, teenage drama, you name it. Dylan and Alyssa were never super close, but they were friendly enough. Things started to shift when Alyssa turned about 15. She became extremely combative, not just the typical teenage rebellion, but mean. And not just toward me, but toward Dylan in particular. It escalated from petty insults to full-on bullying. Tom often dismissed it as siblings being siblings, but I didn't think it was normal. I brought it up repeatedly, and we had more arguments about that than anything else in our marriage. Tom thought I was too sensitive or too protective of Dylan. Alyssa moved out last year to live on campus. I was relieved. I felt guilty about that, but Dylan became a whole different kid once she left. More relaxed, more confident. He started drawing again, made a couple of new friends, even joined a club at school. That may sound minor, but it was a big deal after years of walking on eggshells in his own home. The incident happened about 6 months ago when Alyssa was home for winter break. Dylan came to me in tears, holding his sketchbook. Alyssa had found it in his room, drawn all over his work with Sharpie, and written "loser" across several pages. These were drawings he'd spent months on. Some of them were part of a portfolio he was preparing to apply to an art summer program. He was devastated. I confronted Alyssa. She laughed at first, then said she was just teasing, and that he should learn to take a joke. I asked her if destroying someone's work and calling them names was her idea of a joke. She rolled her eyes and walked away. I told Tom, expecting him to finally understand that this wasn't normal sibling behavior, but he just said Alyssa had poor judgment and that she was probably stressed from finals. That night, I told Alyssa, bluntly, that she wasn't welcome to stay in our home anymore unless she made a sincere apology to Dylan and replaced what she ruined. Some of the pages were original watercolors that he couldn't recreate, and we estimated about $150 worth of supplies were wasted. She scoffed and packed up early, going back to her dorm. Tom was furious with me for kicking his daughter out. We didn't speak much for about 2 weeks. Eventually, we reached a tense truce, but things weren't really resolved. Now it's April, and Alyssa wants to move back home for the summer. Her mom recently downsized and doesn't have space for her, and the campus won't allow her to stay in the dorms past mid-May. Tom immediately said she could move back in. I said no. I reminded him of what happened in December. Dylan still hasn't fully bounced back. He threw away half his drawings and has stopped applying to the art program. He told me he didn't want Alyssa back in the house, even for a day. I told Tom I wasn't going to make my son feel unsafe in his own home just to make things easier for Alyssa. Tom argued that she's a teenager. She makes mistakes, and this is her home too. I said it's not a mistake when she never apologized and still thinks what she did was funny. He said I was punishing her to make a point. I said I was protecting my son from someone who has been emotionally abusive toward him for years. Alyssa ended up calling me herself, claiming she's being unfairly exiled. I asked her one more time if she thought what she did to Dylan was wrong. Her response, "It wasn't that serious. He's so dramatic." I said that attitude is exactly why she's not welcome. Now my in-laws are involved. Tom told his parents, and they think I'm being spiteful and making the situation worse. They've told Dylan to get over it, and that boys don't need to be coddled. I've stopped taking their calls. Tom has been sleeping in the guest room for the past few nights. He says he can't believe I'm choosing sides in such a cruel way. I told him I wasn't choosing sides. I'm choosing boundaries. My child comes first. Period. Some of my friends say I'm doing the right thing, but others think I'm going too far by barring Alyssa from the house entirely. They argue she's still a teenager, and teenagers can be dumb and cruel without understanding the full impact of their actions. I get that, but at what point do you stop giving someone a pass just because they're young? This has put a huge strain on my marriage. I feel like I've done everything I can to make Alyssa feel like she had a place in our home, and she spat in my face, and more importantly, in Dylan's. AITA for refusing to let her move back in after what she did to my son. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her emotional support animal to my wedding even though it caused a massive family argument. I, 28F, am getting married in August to my fiancé Josh, 31M. We've been together for 5 years, engaged for 1, and we've planned a fairly small, elegant ceremony with about 80 guests. Everything is mostly settled: the venue, the catering, the seating arrangements, etc. The wedding will be held in a botanical garden, with both the ceremony and reception taking place outdoors, under a large white tent for shade and shelter. Now here's the issue. My younger sister Megan, 25F, insists on bringing her emotional support animal, a large golden retriever named Honey, to the wedding. Let me give some background. Megan has been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and PTSD from a pretty traumatic car accident she was in 3 years ago. She's been in therapy since, and a year and a half ago, she got Honey through an ESA registration. Honey is incredibly well-behaved and sweet, and she really does help Megan calm down. I've seen it myself. She clings to the dog like a lifeline during panic attacks, and Honey is trained to nudge her or sit on her feet to ground her. I understand Honey is a huge part of her mental health routine. However, Honey is not a service dog. She doesn't have the public access rights that service dogs do, and our venue has a strict no pets policy. I clarified this early on when I was finalizing our reservation because I wanted to know whether guests could bring small dogs or anything else, and they said only legally recognized service animals would be allowed. When I sent out the invitations 3 months ago, I included a small insert about the venue's policies. No smoking, no flash photography during the ceremony, and no pets allowed, with exceptions for service animals. I thought that was clear. Megan called me the day after she got the invite and asked if Honey was considered okay. I explained what the venue told me and said I was sorry, but Honey wouldn't be allowed. She got very quiet and said she didn't know if she could come, then hung up abruptly. A few days later, my mom called me in tears, saying Megan was having anxiety attacks again and felt like I was choosing aesthetics over her mental health. She said she wouldn't feel safe without Honey and accused me of trying to exclude her, even though she's my maid of honor. I tried to explain that this wasn't personal and that I genuinely couldn't override the venue's rules. I even called them back and asked if there was any flexibility, explaining the situation in detail. They said they were sympathetic, but unless Honey was a certified service animal trained to perform specific tasks, they couldn't make exceptions, partly due to insurance liability and health codes. I offered to pay for Megan to bring therapist or companion, or even have her sit out the reception if she felt it would be too overwhelming, and just attend the ceremony for a shorter time. I also offered to seat her near the edge of the tent so she could step away if needed. None of this was enough for her. She said she would only come if honey was allowed, and if I didn't budge, she wouldn't come at all. This led to a full-on family meltdown. My mom sided with Megan immediately and said that as her big sister, I should be doing everything in my power to make her feel safe. My dad is trying to stay neutral, but I can tell he thinks I'm being inflexible. My aunt, mom's sister, even called me last week to say she heard about the no dog rule and said it seemed cold-hearted for a bride to make her own sister choose between family and mental health. Meanwhile, my fiancé is stuck in an awkward position. He supports my decision and reminds me that we're already over budget and overstressed, and that the last thing we need is bending rules for one person that could jeopardize the whole event. He also pointed out, gently, that Megan has a history of making things about herself, even unintentionally. For instance, she cried during my bridal shower because the attention made her feel invisible, and my mom ended up comforting her while I opened gifts alone. I'm trying to be empathetic here, but I also can't help but feel like this is manipulative. I love my sister, I really do. I want her at my wedding, and I want her to feel safe. But I also think I deserve to have the day I envisioned, without violating venue rules or opening the door to more drama. A few of my friends who know Megan well told me they support me and that Megan needs to work on not using honey as a shield for every discomfort. One friend who works in disability law even said that ESAs do not have the same access rights for a reason. They're valuable, but they're not meant to go everywhere like service animals are. Still, I'm left feeling torn. My mom keeps texting me long messages about how family should come first and how what is one dog compared to your sister's presence. And if she has a breakdown and ends up in the ER, will the wedding be worth it? Every time I get those messages, I spiral. I've cried more than once over this because it's making me dread my own wedding day. It's also creating this horrible precedent. If I cave now, what else will I be expected to cave on in the name of emotional peacekeeping? And what happens if the venue staff see the dog and ask her to leave anyway? Or if another guest complains? Or if the dog reacts badly in a stressful environment with music, people, and food? It's not fair to put that on me during what should be a joyful day. But I still feel guilty. Maybe I should have picked a different venue. Maybe I should have asked for an outdoor section that wasn't under the venue's policies. Maybe I should just let her bring the dog and hope no one enforces the rules. I'm trying so hard to make the right call, but either choice feels like I'm betraying someone. So Reddit, AITA for not allowing my sister to bring her emotional support animal to my wedding, even though it means she might not come at all. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what could be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to split my inheritance with my half-siblings after our dad died. My dad passed away 8 months ago. He was 67, had a stroke, and it was quick. I, 32M, was the only person listed in his will. Everything was left to me. His house, his savings, his classic car, everything. I'm his only child with my mom, who died when I was 15. After she died, he remarried a woman named Carla and had 2 more kids, my half-siblings, now 16F and 14M. I'll say this up front, I was never close to them. When my dad married Carla, I was 17. He met her about a year after my mom passed. I was still deep in grief, and then suddenly there was this new woman in the house, moving in with her toddler daughter from a previous relationship. It felt fast, jarring, and honestly like my mom had just been replaced. My relationship with my dad started to strain right after. He was always trying to blend the family, but I was just not emotionally on board. It wasn't like they treated me badly, but I always felt like a guest in the house after that. Carla never really tried to get to know me, and I didn't make it easy either. I moved out at 19 for college and never moved back in. From then on, I saw him less and less. I'd come for some holidays, birthdays, but we weren't close. When I got married 5 years ago, he came to the wedding, but we barely talked during the planning. Carla and the kids didn't come. Not invited. At that point, I hadn't even spoken to the half-siblings in years. When he got sick, I got a call from the hospital. Carla had listed me as next of kin because he never updated his paperwork. I sat by his side until he passed. It was rough. He was unconscious most of the time, but I sat there reading to him, playing his favorite music. I guess I was still trying to have some sort of closure. After he passed, I was the executor. Carla was shocked to find out he left everything to me. She assumed she and the kids would be taken care of, but he'd never changed his will after remarrying. It was written a year after my mom died, and I was the sole beneficiary. The house is worth around $800,000. He had about $150,000 in savings, plus a couple of valuable items like his restored 1967 Mustang and a coin collection from my grandfather. Altogether, it's over $1 million in assets. Carla was furious. She demanded I do the right thing and split the estate between me, her, and the kids. I refused. She tried to fight it legally, but the will was airtight. It was all mine. Since then, she and her kids have been struggling. They had to move out of the house because I decided to sell it. I gave them 90 days notice, which is generous in our state, and even paid for their moving costs and 2 months' rent. But that wasn't enough for them. Now everyone is calling me heartless. My aunt, Dad's sister, says I'm punishing innocent kids for my dad's mistake. My wife says she understands my choice but thinks I should at least set up college fund for the kids because they lost their dad too. I don't disagree, but I also can't help but feel like this is just another expectation for me to clean up the mess my dad left behind. I grew up with him when he was a different man. He was hands-on, loving, made time for me. After my mom died, he just changed. When Carla came into the picture, everything became about starting a new chapter. I was a bookmark in his old one. People act like I'm taking food out of the mouths of children, but they're not starving. Carla works, and she's getting help from her mom. They'll be okay. Meanwhile, no one seems to care about how I've been grieving. I've been in therapy, trying to come to terms with my complicated feelings, love, resentment, guilt. A small part of me feels bad for the kids. They didn't ask for any of this, but they're also basically strangers to me. I never got to be their brother. Not really. When I came home, they barely spoke to me, and I never felt welcomed in the new family. When I got engaged, neither of them reached out or congratulated me. I'm not trying to be petty, but I never mattered to them either. Last month, my cousin invited me to a family dinner. When I got there, Carla and the kids were there too. I guess no one told me. It was awkward. I tried to make small talk, but Carla wouldn't even look at me. Her daughter said something like, "Glad to know he meant so little to you," and walked off. I left early. My cousin texted me afterward saying I should consider at least giving them part of the savings because family takes care of each other. But were we ever really family? My therapist says I have every right to the estate, legally and emotionally. But the guilt is eating at me. I don't need all the money, not really. My wife and I are comfortable. We don't have kids yet, but we're planning to. We could invest, buy a better house, even help my in-laws with some debts. So yeah, I could share it. But I also feel like this is the one thing my dad left just for me. Does honoring that make me selfish? Or is this me finally standing up for myself after being the afterthought for years? So, Reddit. AITA for refusing to split my inheritance with my half-siblings? AITA for canceling my sister's wedding venue without telling her because she used my credit card without asking? I'm 33F, in a weird position with my sister, 29F, and I need some outside perspective because our entire family is furious with me, and I'm starting to question if I really went too far. For background, I've always been the responsible one in the family. I have a good job, no kids, no major debt, and I've worked hard for what I have. My sister, Jess, is the opposite. She's fun, free-spirited, and kind of the family favorite. She's also bounced between jobs, had a couple of failed business ventures, and has a habit of leaning on others when things get tight financially. I've helped her in the past, including co-signing for her first car, mistake. I ended up paying it off and loaning her $2,000 for rent once, never paid back. I told her a year ago that I love her, but can't be her safety net anymore. She agreed and promised she'd respect that. Fast forward to earlier this year. Just got engaged to her boyfriend of 2 years. Everyone was thrilled, and honestly, he seemed like a good guy. But money's been tight for her again, and she's been stressed about planning the wedding. I offered to help in small ways, like making centerpieces or baking cupcakes, but made it very clear I wouldn't be financing anything. Last month, I noticed a large charge on my credit card, $8,237. At first, I thought it was fraud and called the card company. They told me it was for a venue rental and listed Jess's name in the notes from the vendor. I was furious. I confronted her, and after a bit of back and forth, she admitted she'd used my card just to hold the venue because it was going to get booked fast, and she didn't want to lose it. Her plan was to figure it out later before the full charge came due, which obviously never happened. I told her she had no right to do that and demanded she cancel the venue immediately. She cried, said the date was special to her and that the place was her dream, and she'd find a way to pay me back over time. I told her no, that wasn't acceptable, and I was done enabling her. She begged me to just let it ride, but I refused. I called the venue the next day and explained the situation. They were sympathetic and said they would cancel, but because it was past the cancellation window, only half would be refunded. I asked if it was possible to challenge it because I didn't authorize the charge, but since Jess used my info with knowledge of the terms and signed digitally, it technically wasn't fraud. They said the best they could do was a partial refund of $4,000. So I took it. I got the $4,000 back and had the rest eat into my savings, which still sucked. Jess flipped when she found out. She screamed at me over the phone, told me I'd ruined her wedding, said she'd never forgive me, and hung up. She also posted a long rant on Facebook about how some people don't support love and family should be there in hard times. She didn't name me directly, but everyone knew who she meant. Our parents called me soon after and were absolutely livid. They said I should have come to them instead of canceling the venue. They offered to pay the balance, which is funny because they've never helped me with anything money-related in my life, and said now the whole wedding is up in the air because no other venues are available on her chosen date. I told them they can book it again if it means that much, but they refused to because the damage is done. They also told me I humiliated Jess and made things worse for everyone. I asked why they weren't mad that she used my credit card without permission, and they just said she panicked and was trying to do something nice, and that I should have been understanding. That pushed me over the edge, and I told them I was taking a step back from all of this because I'm not a bank, and I'm tired of being treated like one. Now, nearly a month later, Jess still isn't talking to me. Neither are my parents. My brother is on my side, but he lives out of state and doesn't want to get involved. A few cousins reached out to say they understand why I did it, but think I should have waited before canceling the venue and maybe demanded she pay me back first. I've started to feel a bit guilty. I didn't give her a real chance to fix it. I acted fast because I was scared of being stuck with a huge bill and didn't trust her to follow through. Maybe I should have gone to our parents first, or at least let her try to raise the money before nuking the plan. But on the other hand, she had no right to use my card, and I've been burned by her too many times. I know weddings are important, but does that give someone the right to gamble with someone else's money? She knew I didn't want to pay for anything. She knew I'd say no. She did it anyway. So, AITA? AITA for not attending my sister's wedding because she didn't include my fiancé in the bridal party? So, a little background before I dive into the issue at hand. I'm a 28-year-old woman, and my sister, Emma, is 26. We've always had a close relationship, or at least I thought we did. Growing up, we were inseparable. We shared a room, shared clothes, and did everything together. As we've gotten older, our lives have taken different paths, but we've still been pretty close, or at least I thought so. I have a fiancé, Mark, who's 30. We've been together for almost 5 years, and we're planning to get married next year. Here's where things started to go south. Emma got engaged about 6 months before us, and she and her fiancé, Jack, started planning their wedding. The problem came when Emma started talking about her bridal party. She had already asked her best friend, a few cousins, and some other people to be bridesmaids. I was initially thrilled because, of course, I assumed I'd be a part of her bridal party. After all, I'm her sister, and we've always been close, right? But when I asked her about being a bridesmaid, she seemed hesitant. Emma said she wanted a smaller bridal party and that she was keeping it limited to her best friends and some family, but not immediate family. She assured me that I'd still have a special role, like being a maid of honor in spirit. I was a bit hurt, but tried not to make a big deal of it, understanding her desire for a smaller wedding. Then things got worse. A couple of weeks later, Emma told me she was having a sister dinner with just her and her two cousins who were close to her, and she invited them to be bridesmaids. I felt a sting. I mean, my fiancé had become like a brother to her over the years, and I assumed I'd have a big part in her wedding, even if I wasn't a bridesmaid. But when I asked her why she wasn't considering me for any role in the bridal party, she said she didn't feel like we were as close as we used to be. She mentioned how our relationship had changed over the years, and that she didn't think it was the right fit anymore. This really caught me off guard. We had always been close, and I thought things were fine. It was just a hard pill to swallow. But the kicker came when she told me that Mark wouldn't be included in any of the wedding festivities either. Apparently, she had decided to keep the groom's side of the family to a strict minimum. She said that while she appreciated Mark, she was focusing on people who had been around longer and had a stronger presence in her life, which was, to her, Jack's family and her childhood friends. She told me she just couldn't accommodate my fiancé because of how small the event was. At first, I thought maybe I was overreacting, but the more I thought about it, the more hurt I felt. My fiancé and I are planning our wedding together, and if anyone should be included in a bridal party, I thought it should be him too. I tried to talk to her about it again, asking if maybe we could work something out, but she got really defensive. She told me that I was being dramatic and that I needed to stop making her wedding about me. She said it was her day, and I should just be happy that I was invited. She also made some comments about how I was turning it into a bigger issue than it was, and that I was jeopardizing our relationship by making her feel guilty. At this point, I felt like I was being pushed aside. Emma had always been the more self-absorbed sibling, but this felt like a slap in the face. We've always supported each other, and I felt like I was being excluded because of her insecurity about our close bond. So here's where I'm at. After multiple conversations where Emma insisted that I shouldn't expect to have any special role, I decided to pull back. I told her that I wouldn't be attending the wedding if she couldn't include both me and Mark in any meaningful way. I told her it was too hard for me to be there knowing that she was choosing not to include my fiancé, especially considering how much he has supported her in the past. She was furious and accused me of being petty and spiteful. She said I was making everything about myself, and that it was her wedding, and I should just be happy for her. She told me if I didn't come, it was my choice, but she wasn't going to beg me. Now, the rest of our family is involved, and I'm getting a lot of mixed feedback. My parents are upset with me for not attending, but they also understand my feelings. They think Emma should have been more inclusive, but they don't want me to cause drama by not going. Emma's friends have called me a brat, and some of her extended family members have been commenting on how I've ruined the excitement around her big day. But on the other hand, my fiancé has been incredibly supportive, telling me that he thinks I'm justified in standing my ground. He said he wouldn't want to go to a wedding where we're both excluded from such an important part. So, Reddit, AITA for not attending my sister's wedding because she didn't include me or my fiancé in any meaningful way. I really don't want to cause a rift in our family, but I also don't want to feel like I'm being disrespected. Would I be a jerk for standing my ground and skipping it? AITA for confronting my sister about her constant jokes at my expense? So, I, 28M, have a sister. Let's call her Mia, 30F. We've always had a bit of a complicated relationship, especially since we grew up in a pretty competitive household. Mia has always been the type to joke around a lot, and honestly, as kids, I took it in stride. But as we've gotten older, her jokes have turned from playful teasing to something more mean-spirited. It's been affecting me, and I finally reached my breaking point. To give you some background, Mia is known in the family for being the life of the party. She's funny, outgoing, and can always get a laugh out of people. But the problem is that a lot of her humor comes at other people's expense, mostly mine. I've never been one to draw attention to myself, but I've always been a bit on the quiet side, and I don't really like being the center of attention, which is why it used to annoy me when Mia would pick on me. But I just shrug it off because I thought it was harmless. Over the past few years, though, her jokes have started to touch on more personal stuff. For example, she makes fun of the fact that I've always struggled with my weight. I've had issues with body image for a long time, and while I've made some progress over the years, it's still a sensitive topic for me. Mia will bring it up in front of our family at dinner, saying things like, "Don't worry, he's not going to finish that meal," he'll have a second plate in an hour. Or she'll say something like, I'm surprised you're eating that. Isn't it a little too much for you? All of this in front of our parents, and sometimes in front of our friends. At first, I tried to laugh it off, but it kept happening, and I started noticing how much it was affecting me. I would try to change the subject or make a joke back, but it was never really funny, and it always felt like I was being humiliated. I've also noticed that after one of her jokes, the whole mood of the conversation shifts. People laugh, and then I can't help but feel like the joke was at my expense, and that everyone sees me as the punchline. It wasn't just about my weight either. She started commenting on my career, too. I work in a relatively low-key job as an office administrator for a small company. It's nothing fancy, but it pays the bills, and I enjoy the work. Mia, on the other hand, works in a high-profile marketing role, and I've noticed that she'll subtly compare our careers. She'll say things like, "It must be so nice to have such a laid-back job. I bet you just sit there all day and do nothing, huh?" Or she'll bring up how she's traveling to different places for work while I'm stuck in an office. At first, I tried to brush it off, but it kept happening. She'd make little comments in front of others, trying to make me feel like I wasn't successful enough. I don't know why, but something clicked with me recently. It all came to a head at a family gathering about a month ago. We were having dinner, and Mia was in full joke mode, going off about my weight again. This time, I don't know what got into me, but I snapped. I told her that I was tired of her constantly making jokes at my expense and that it wasn't funny anymore. I said it wasn't okay to talk about my weight like that, or my job, or any of the other things she felt the need to comment on. I told her that it made me feel small and insignificant, and that I didn't appreciate it. She was quiet for a second, and then she just laughed it off. "Oh, come on, it's just a joke. You're so sensitive. I'm just messing around." But I wasn't laughing. I told her that I wasn't going to sit there and let her humiliate me anymore, and that if she couldn't take me seriously, then I wasn't going to be around her for it. The room went silent for a while. I could tell that the rest of the family didn't know what to say. My mom seemed uncomfortable, but my dad was just looking at me like I was the one who had done something wrong. Mia tried to shrug it off, but you could tell she was a little rattled. She eventually said, "Whatever. I didn't realize you'd gotten so sensitive about it. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings." But it didn't feel like an apology. It felt like more of a dismissal, like she was just saying something to get me to drop it. And I did drop it because I didn't want to make a bigger scene. But later that night, Mia sent me a text saying, "I didn't mean to upset you, but if you can't handle a little teasing, maybe we're not as close as I thought." I didn't respond because I didn't know how to. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm wondering if I overreacted. On the one hand, I feel like it's about time I stood up for myself. But on the other, I know that Mia just has this way of being playful, and maybe I took it too seriously. She's always been the one to get attention at family events, and I've always been the quiet one in the background. I guess part of me wonders if I'm being overly sensitive or if I had a right to speak up for myself. AITA for confronting my sister about her jokes? Should I have just kept letting it slide? Or was I justified in finally standing up for myself? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she disinvited my fiancé? I, 29M, have a sister, Rachel, 27F, who is getting married in a few months. We've always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, I was the more responsible one, and she was the wild child who often caused trouble. We've never been particularly close, but we get along well enough. I'll admit, we don't hang out much outside of family gatherings, but we've been civil. I've been with my fiancé, Tom, 31M, for about 3 years. We're planning to get married next year, and while we're not in a rush, we're both very excited about our future together. Tom is a wonderful person. He's kind, thoughtful, and supportive, basically everything you'd want in a partner. My family, for the most part, gets along with him, though Rachel has always been a bit distant with him. I've never pushed her to be super close with him, but I've always thought that the minimal effort she made to get to know him was a little off. Things took a turn when Rachel announced her wedding plans. She sent out save-the-date cards to everyone, including Tom and me. At first, I was excited. Weddings are always a big deal in my family, and I was happy to be part of the celebration. But a few weeks later, Rachel called me and asked if I could meet her for coffee. I thought it was just a casual chat about wedding plans, so I agreed. When I met up with her, she immediately dropped a bombshell. I've been thinking about the guest list, and I've decided that Tom can't come to the wedding, she said, not even looking up from her coffee. I stared at her, stunned. What do you mean? Tom's been invited since the save the date went out. Why would you disinvite him? Rachel sighed. I just don't feel comfortable with him being there. I know you're engaged, but he's just not a good fit for the wedding. I don't think he'll fit in with the vibe I'm going for. I was in complete shock. What vibe are you talking about? It's a wedding, not a party with a dress code. Rachel rolled her eyes. It's just a family thing, you know? I want everyone to get along and feel comfortable. I don't want any awkwardness. I was trying to process what she was saying. Rachel, Tom and I are a package deal. If he's not invited, then I'm not coming either. I've been with him for 3 years, and we're engaged. I'm not going to your wedding without him. Rachel looked at me with a mix of frustration and disbelief. You're really going to make this about you and him? It's my wedding. I get to decide who's invited. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool. It's not just about me and him. It's about respect. You're telling me that my fiancé, who I'm building a life with, isn't welcome at your wedding, and you expect me to just show up and pretend everything's fine? That's not going to happen. She leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. Well, if you're going to act like this, then I guess you're not coming at all. I can't force people to get along, and I'm not going to cater to someone who doesn't understand my vision for my wedding. I was speechless. The audacity of it was unbelievable. I knew Rachel could be self-centered, but this felt different. It wasn't just a disagreement. It was an outright exclusion of my fiancé, based on some arbitrary notion of who she thought was a good fit for her wedding. I stood up to leave. Fine, I won't come. But I'm really disappointed in you, Rachel. I thought family meant more than this. She didn't say anything as I walked out. The whole conversation left me feeling cold, and I couldn't believe she would do something like this over something so trivial. I called Tom as soon as I left the coffee shop. I was upset, and he could tell. She did what? He asked, incredulous. I explained the whole situation, and he was just as shocked. He didn't want me to feel torn about it, but he also didn't want to cause drama. I reassured him that I wasn't going to back down, and I wasn't going to let Rachel treat him this way. Over the next few days, I debated whether I should talk to Rachel again or just let it go. Part of me wanted to try to reason with her, explain how hurtful and unreasonable her decision was. But another part of me knew it would be pointless. Rachel had always been a bit of drama queen, but this was taking it too far. I decided to send her a message. I wrote that I wasn't going to attend the wedding without Tom, and that I thought her decision to disinvite him was disrespectful. I told her I was hurt by her actions, but I wasn't going to change my mind. Rachel responded quickly, and it wasn't pretty. She called me selfish and said I was making her wedding all about me. She accused me of being manipulative for not supporting her wishes. She also said that if I wasn't going to respect her boundaries, then I wasn't really part of her family. That stung, especially coming from her, but I stood firm. The rest of my family, including my parents, is caught in the middle. My mom called me and asked if I'd reconsider, telling me that weddings are emotional and sometimes people do things they don't mean. But when I told her what had happened, she said she understood my side. Still, she tried to convince me that it wasn't worth losing a relationship over. It's been a few weeks, and Rachel hasn't reached out to me since the last exchange. I'm hurt, and I still can't believe she's done this, but at the same time, I feel like I've done the right thing by standing up for Tom. He's my family now, and I won't let anyone treat him like he's not welcome. Now my family is split. Some of them say I'm in the right, and others say I'm being too hard-headed and should just let it go for the sake of peace. I'm torn, and I keep second-guessing myself. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she disinvited my fiancé? AITA for choosing my dog over my best friend? So, I, 29F, have been friends with Lucy, 30F, for about 15 years. We've been through a lot together, and I honestly consider her family. Over the years, we've had our share of ups and downs, but we've always worked things out. That is, until recently. To give you some context, I have a dog named Max, who is a rescue. He's a border collie mix, about 4 years old, and he's been my best companion ever since I adopted him 2 years ago. Max is super affectionate, intelligent, and has really helped me get through some difficult moments in my life. He's also quite high energy, which means he needs a lot of attention, walks, and exercise to be happy. Here's where the problem starts. Lucy recently moved into an apartment in the city. We both live in the same general area, so it's not that far, but her place is much smaller and has a no-pet policy. It's important to note that Lucy has never been a big fan of dogs. She's always been a cat person, and while she doesn't outright dislike Max, she's never been as attached to him as I am. She's a bit of a neat freak and has always been uncomfortable around pets that shed or get too much on her stuff. Over the years, she's made it clear that she doesn't really understand my bond with Max, though she's always respected it to an extent. For the past few months, I've been trying to make plans to hang out with Lucy, but every time I suggest doing something at my place, she refuses. She says it's because of Max, and she can't relax with him around. She's mentioned how he's too much for her, and that she'd rather hang out at her apartment or go out somewhere else. I tried to explain to her that Max is friendly and won't bite, but she says it's more about his presence and how she feels like she's always watching him or worrying about him being underfoot. To me, it just feels like she's putting up a wall when it comes to my dog, and I don't feel comfortable asking her to be around him if she doesn't want to. A couple of weeks ago, I threw a small birthday party in my apartment. It was supposed to be a casual get-together with a few friends, and I invited Lucy. She immediately told me that she wouldn't come if Max would be there. I was kind of taken aback by that, because Max is part of my life, and I don't feel like I should have to hide him from my friends. But I told her, okay, no problem, you don't have to come if you're not comfortable. I invited a few other friends who know how important Max is to me, and everyone was pretty chill about him being there. The party went fine, but after Lucy found out about it, she was really upset. She texted me, calling me selfish and accusing me of choosing my dog over her. She said that I should have respected her boundaries and understood that she doesn't want to be around Max, especially in a social setting like that. She claimed that I was being unreasonable by making her feel like an outsider for not wanting to hang out with a dog. The thing is, I really do respect her boundaries, but it just feels like I'm constantly having to make exceptions for her. I've adjusted my plans before to accommodate her, whether it's meeting at a cafe instead of my apartment or doing things outside where Max isn't present. I understand she doesn't love dogs, but it seems like she's making it more of an issue than it needs to be. After the birthday party incident, I reached out to her to talk about it. I told her that I don't want to be put in a position where I feel like I have to choose between my dog and my best friend. I explained that Max is a huge part of my life, and asking me to keep him out of social events isn't really something I can keep doing. I also told her that I've tried to accommodate her by changing our hangouts to places that don't involve Max, but it feels like she's the one making the issue bigger. She responded by saying that I'm being overly dramatic and that it's not like she's asking me to get rid of Max, just that I should stop forcing him on her. She said that she's tried to be patient, but it's not that hard to not have Max around when they hang out. She even accused me of making her feel like an awful person for not liking dogs, which isn't true. I've never made her feel bad about her preferences. I've always just accepted them. I've been thinking about it a lot since that conversation, and now I'm feeling conflicted. I really value my friendship with Lucy, but I'm not sure how much I can continue to compromise when it comes to Max. I also don't think it's fair to expect me to keep leaving him out of our plans, especially since he's such a big part of my life. Am I being unreasonable in asking Lucy to either accept Max being around or to stop making such a big deal out of it? I don't want to lose a longtime friend over a dog, but I also feel like my priorities are shifting, and maybe I need to make space for relationships that are more understanding of my bond with Max. So, AITA for choosing my dog over my best friend? AITA for telling my sister I won't attend her wedding unless she invites my ex? I, 28F, have a sister, Emily, 31F, who is getting married to her fiancé, Ben, 32M, in a couple of months. I'll admit, I was a little bit shocked when I first heard about it. They've been dating for about 2 years, and while I know Ben is a good guy, I'm not sure how well they fit together. But I'll admit, that's not really the point of this story. The issue is with my ex, Jake, 30M, and the fact that my sister refuses to invite him to the wedding. To give you a bit of background, Jake and I were together for about 5 years. We had a pretty solid relationship, but things started to fall apart about a year ago. We broke up in the summer of last year. It was mutual in a way. We both agreed we weren't happy, and after a few months of trying to fix things, we decided to part ways. It was hard, but it wasn't some dramatic, messy breakup. We were both adults about it. Jake and I have managed to stay on good terms after the breakup, which I think is fairly rare. We don't hang out regularly, but we text every so often, and we're on friendly terms. We both have similar friend groups, so it's not like we can avoid each other entirely. At first, I wasn't sure how it would go, but I think we've both handled it with maturity, and we've each moved on. He's dating someone new now, and I'm seeing someone as well, so it's not weird or anything. Now, my sister's wedding is coming up, and when I got the invite, I was thrilled. I've been looking forward to it for months. The thing is, Jake is also friends with a lot of people in my family and some of the other guests. He and Ben have hung out a few times, and Jake was even at Emily's engagement party. I assumed he would be invited to the wedding, considering how many mutual friends we have, but when I spoke to Emily about it, I found out that Jake wasn't on the guest list. At first, I thought it was just an oversight, so I asked her about it. I told her I was excited for the wedding, but that I would prefer if Jake could come since we're all still friends. She was really quick to shut me down. She said that while she doesn't have an issue with Jake, she doesn't think it's appropriate for him to be there because of our history. She said it might make things uncomfortable for both of us, and that it would probably stir up drama with Ben and some of the other guests. I argued that we have been broken up for almost a year, and there's no reason for it to be weird anymore. We've all moved on, and I told her that I wasn't planning on causing a scene, but Emily stuck to her guns. She said she's already got her guest list figured out and that she doesn't want to make any changes. She also said that inviting Jake might make Ben feel uncomfortable, and she didn't want to risk upsetting him on such an important day. I tried to explain that I didn't think it would be an issue. I reminded her that Jake and Ben had spent time together before, and there's no bad blood between anyone. I also told her that I understood she might be worried about it, but I didn't want to feel like I had to choose between her and my friendship with Jake. She insisted that I'm blowing things out of proportion and that I'm being selfish for making this about me when it's her wedding. At this point, I felt really hurt. I've always supported Emily through everything, and I've never asked for anything major in return. But now, it felt like she was asking me to choose between my family and someone who's been a big part of my life for a long time. I even told her that if Jake wasn't invited, I wouldn't feel comfortable attending the wedding. I didn't think that would be the response she was expecting, but she was furious. She said that my condition was unreasonable and that I was being completely dramatic about the whole thing. Since then, things have been awkward between us. I haven't heard from Emily much, and whenever we do talk, it's like there's this elephant in the room. I know she's hurt and frustrated with me, and I feel bad that things have gotten this way, but I don't think I'm in the wrong. I feel like my sister is trying to control my relationships, and it's not like I'm asking her to invite my ex to everything. I just want him to be there on a day where it won't be weird, and he's already friends with most of the people there. The thing is, I know my sister values her relationship with me, and I don't want this to destroy our relationship over something that should be a non-issue. I also don't want to feel forced into choosing between my family and my friends. I've gotten some advice from friends who say I'm not in the wrong, and they've even suggested I just skip the wedding if she refuses to listen to me. I'm not sure if that's the best way to go, though. I've tried to be understanding of her position, but at the same time, I don't feel like I'm asking for anything unreasonable. So, AITA for telling my sister that I won't attend her wedding unless my ex is invited. AITA for refusing to attend my best friend's wedding because of how she treated me during my engagement. So, this is a long one, and I might not be able to get all the details in, but I'll try to explain everything as best as I can. I'm a 28-year-old woman, and my best friend, Sarah, is also 28. We've known each other since we were 5 years old, and we've been inseparable ever since. Or at least I thought we were. Over the years, we've been through everything together. High school drama, college stress, relationships, breakups, and all the usual adulting challenges. However, things took a serious turn recently, and I'm not sure where I stand with her anymore. So, a bit of background. I recently got engaged to my boyfriend, John. We've been together for almost 4 years, and things have been great. John and I got engaged in January, and I was beyond thrilled. When I told Sarah, I thought she'd be just as happy as I was. We've been there for each other through everything, and I imagined her being one of the first people to help me plan everything. But it was not what I expected at all. When I told her I was engaged, Her first response was, "Oh, that's great, I guess." It wasn't exactly the over-the-top excitement I was hoping for, but I brushed it off. After all, she's been busy with work and life, so I didn't want to read too much into it. But as the days went on, things started to feel off. She didn't really ask about the proposal or the ring or how I was feeling. She didn't offer any suggestions for wedding venues, help me pick out dresses, or even ask for my wedding date. All the things I had done for her when she got engaged just a year before. I'm not the kind of person who demands attention or gifts, but I thought that as my best friend, she'd at least show some kind of interest or excitement. A week later, Sarah invited me over for coffee, and I thought, finally, she wants to talk about my engagement. But when I got there, it turned out she was upset about something else entirely. She told me that her wedding was coming up soon, and she was feeling stressed. I didn't think much of it, since she'd been planning it for a while. I asked her what was wrong, and she said, "Well, I just wish you were more involved." At first, I was confused because I thought I had been involved. I had attended all of her bridal showers, helped her with venue visits, and even spent hours picking out decorations for her wedding. But then, she said something that threw me off. "I don't feel like you're as invested in my wedding as I was in your engagement." Now, this hit me like a ton of bricks. I didn't know how to respond because, in my mind, I had supported her more than anyone else. I'd been there for every single milestone in her wedding planning journey. But in her mind, it wasn't enough. She told me that she was feeling left out of my excitement, and that I hadn't been showing up for her the way she showed up for me. I tried to explain to her that it's just been a busy time in my life, and planning my own engagement has taken up a lot of my energy. She didn't seem to understand, and the conversation ended with her saying that she didn't want to feel like I was the only one putting in effort. Over the next few weeks, things got more tense. Whenever I brought up my wedding plans, Sarah would change the subject or give a forced smile like she didn't care. She even made a comment about how my wedding wasn't that big of a deal compared to hers, which really stung because we've always supported each other's milestones in the past. It felt like she was trying to overshadow my happiness with her own issues. Eventually, I asked her directly, "Are you upset because you think I'm not as excited about your wedding as you were about my engagement?" And her response was something I'll never forget. "Yes, I feel like I'm losing my best friend, and I don't want to compete with your wedding." That was the breaking point for me. I realized that it wasn't about my wedding at all. It was about her feeling insecure. She had always been the center of attention, and now that I was getting married, she didn't know how to handle it. I could understand that she might be feeling stressed or jealous, but I couldn't keep apologizing for something I wasn't doing wrong. Here's where the big problem came in. Sarah asked me to be her maid of honor. This felt like a slap in the face because at this point, I was pretty upset with her. She hadn't been happy for me, and instead of being supportive, it felt like she was trying to manipulate me into being involved in her wedding while ignoring mine. I felt like she only wanted me to be her maid of honor because it would put her in the spotlight and make her feel validated. I knew I couldn't do it. I couldn't stand there, smiling and acting like everything was fine, while internally, I was hurt by the way she'd been treating me. I turned her down, and when I did, she got furious. She accused me of not caring about her and ruining our friendship. She told me that I was being selfish and that if I couldn't support her during her wedding, I clearly didn't deserve to be in her life anymore. Honestly, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders when I declined the maid of honor role, but I still felt terrible about the situation. I've been her best friend for so long, and I never thought it would come to this. So, here's where I need advice. I recently got invited to Sarah's wedding, and she expects me to be there. I honestly don't know if I can go. On one hand, I want to be there for her because we've been through so much together. On the other hand, I feel like I can't let her walk all over me and make this whole thing about her when she's done nothing but bring drama into my life. I'm torn because I want to preserve our friendship, but I also don't want to keep enabling her behavior. AITA for not wanting to attend my best friend's wedding because I'm hurt by how she treated me during my engagement. AITA for asking my best friend to stop living with me after a year because I'm not comfortable with how her boyfriend treats her. I, 27M, have been best friends with Emma, 27F, since we were kids. We've been through everything together, breakups, new jobs, family issues, you name it. We've always been very close, and I'd consider her my closest friend. Last year, She had some personal stuff going on, and her living situation became unstable. She asked if she could stay with me for a few months while she got everything sorted out. I said yes without hesitation. At first, it was fine. We had our usual hangouts, talked, and everything was pretty much the same as it always was, except for the fact that we were living together. But after a couple of months, things started to change. Emma's boyfriend, Matt, 30M, started spending more time at my place, even though I'd made it clear from the start that I wasn't comfortable with him being here all the time. At first, I tried to be accommodating, but after a while, it started to get under my skin. Matt is a nice enough guy, I guess. He's friendly, but he has this habit of being overly critical of Emma in front of me. I don't know if he means it as a joke, but it's honestly just uncomfortable. For example, he'll make little comments about how she needs to get her life together, or how she's too sensitive when she reacts to something he says. The worst part is when he'll dismiss her feelings in front of me, which always makes me feel awkward. I've talked to Emma about it a few times. She insists that it's just his way of joking and that she doesn't mind it. But every time she brushes it off, I'm left feeling like I'm the one overreacting. I've always been protective of her, especially since we've been through so much together, so I can't help but feel that Matt is crossing boundaries. I've told Emma that I don't like how he treats her, but she just says that she can handle it and that I shouldn't worry. But the situation has been getting worse. Matt started staying over more often, sometimes without notice. I'm all for being supportive and understanding, but I've been feeling like a third wheel in my own home. I've been trying to keep it together because I know how much Emma means to me, but it's reached a point where I feel really uncomfortable in my own space. I can't even have a quiet night to myself without Matt being there, making comments, or just generally taking over the place. Then a couple of weeks ago, Emma asked me if I would be okay with her and Matt moving in together. She said she'd been thinking about it, and it would help with their relationship. I was shocked. I didn't know how to respond, so I just asked her if she was sure about it. She seemed really excited about the idea, and I didn't want to rain on her parade, so I just told her that I thought it was a big step and she should be careful. But here's where I may have messed up. I told Emma that I would be really uncomfortable if Matt moved in permanently. I explained that I wasn't trying to come between her and her boyfriend, but I didn't feel like I could keep living with her while he was there all the time. It was honestly starting to stress me out, and I felt like my home was becoming a place where I didn't feel comfortable anymore. She got upset. I knew she would, but I didn't expect her to react the way she did. She accused me of not being supportive and said that I was acting like I didn't want her to be happy. She told me that she had been staying with me for so long, and the least I could do was allow her to make decisions that were best for her. She said she didn't want to lose me as a friend, but she also needed to be with Matt, and I was being unreasonable. I was honestly really hurt by her reaction. I've always tried to be there for her, and now she was making me feel like I was the bad guy for simply asking her to consider how her boyfriend was treating her and how it was affecting me. After that conversation, things have been awkward between us. She's still living with me, but she's been distant, and I can feel the tension. We don't hang out like we used to, and I've noticed that she spends more time with Matt when he's around, which just makes me feel even more like a stranger in my own home. I've been debating whether I should ask her to leave. I feel like our friendship has changed, and I don't know if it's for the better. I don't want to be the one to make her feel unsupported, but I also can't keep living in a situation that's making me so uncomfortable. I've been wondering if I'm being selfish for wanting my space back, or if I'm just overreacting to the whole thing. So, AITA for asking my best friend to leave after a year of living together because I'm uncomfortable with how her boyfriend treats her and how it's affecting me. AITA for not letting my sister bring her kids to my wedding after she refused to follow my request. So I, 28F, am getting married to the love of my life, Mark 30M, in a few months, and we are in the middle of finalizing all the details. We are keeping the wedding fairly intimate, around 100 people, and we're doing it at a nice outdoor venue. We want it to be a day about us, and we're really particular about keeping things low-key and personal. One of the bigger issues we've run into involves my sister, Jenny, 32F. Jenny has 2 kids, a 6-year-old boy, Ethan, and a 3-year-old girl, Lily. Both are great kids, but they're a bit of a handful. Jenny and I have always had a strained relationship. We were very close when we were younger, but as we got older, we drifted apart. Part of it is that she has always been more chaotic and spontaneous, and I'm a little more organized and, well, a planner. This has caused tension between us over the years, especially because she often ignores my boundaries and doesn't really consider the impact her actions have on others. When we started planning our wedding, Mark and I made the decision early on that we didn't want children at our wedding. We felt that it would be more intimate and relaxed without the distraction of kids running around. We made it clear in the invitations that the event would be adults only, with the exception of a few close friends who had very young babies, under 6 months, who could be held and wouldn't cause much disruption. We thought this was a fair request, given that it's a special day for us, and we wanted to enjoy it without worrying about kids crying or needing constant attention. I sent the invitations out several months ago, and while most people were understanding, Jenny immediately took issue with the no kids rule. At first, she tried to argue with me, saying that it wasn't fair and that I was excluding her kids from a family event. I told her I understood her frustration, but that we had made the decision based on what we felt would be best for the wedding. I also explained that it wasn't a personal thing. It was just about the atmosphere we wanted. She didn't take it well. Over the following weeks, she continued to pressure me, saying things like, "It's just a wedding. Why can't my kids come?" Or, "You're being unfair by not allowing them to be part of this special day." I kept explaining the same thing, that we wanted the day to be adults only and that we weren't trying to hurt anyone's feelings. I even offered to let her bring her kids to the reception for a brief period if she wanted, but only if they could behave properly and wouldn't cause a disturbance. But Jenny wasn't happy with that. She started complaining to other family members, telling them how I was being selfish and disrespectful by excluding her children. Her complaints started to spread, and soon my parents were calling me, trying to convince me to change my mind. They argued that family is everything, and that a wedding is a time for everyone to come together, especially when it involves young kids. They said that excluding my niece and nephew was cruel and hurtful, and that I was causing unnecessary drama. I remained firm in my decision, even though I was starting to feel the pressure. I told my parents that I wasn't asking for a lot, and that it was a choice we made after careful consideration. I reminded them that I had already made an exception for those with young babies, so it wasn't like I was banning all children. My mom seemed to understand, but my dad and Jenny continued to push the issue. Then came the tipping point. A few weeks ago, Jenny called me up and told me that if I didn't let her bring Ethan and Lily to the wedding, she wouldn't attend. She said that her kids were an important part of her life, and that it would be too hard for her to come without them. She said that I would regret it, and that I was being ridiculous for making such a big deal about it. I was hurt, but I stood my ground. I calmly told her that I had made my decision and that I wasn't going to let her or anyone else pressure me into changing it. I told her that I was still excited for her to be there and that I hoped she would respect my wishes, but if she didn't want to come because of the no kids rule, then that was her choice. She hasn't spoken to me since that conversation. She's told my parents that I'm being unreasonable, and my dad has made a few passive-aggressive comments about how I'm destroying family relationships over something so petty. Jenny hasn't posted about the wedding on social media or made any attempt to get in touch, and I feel like things are just escalating. Now, I'm feeling really torn. I didn't expect this much drama over such a simple request. My wedding day is supposed to be a celebration of love and joy, and I don't want it to be overshadowed by family conflict. But I also feel like I'm entitled to set boundaries and have the wedding I want, even if it's not what others think is best. So, AITA for not letting my sister bring her kids to my wedding after she refused to respect my request. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.